Tonight on Metronews. Orana Wildlife Park is asking for old phones in order to save gorillas' homes. Our tamariki get their hands dirty learning about sustainability. And we talk to bar owners about dealing with COVID restrictions.
Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to Metro News, brought to you by Te Kura Whakapaho o Aotearoa. This week is Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, an important event during Aotearoa's calendar to raise awareness of our national language. As Nick James reports, Kiwis all around the country are being encouraged to give it a go.
Te Reo Māori Language Week launched today. The aim? Get everyone to say at least a word or two every day.
It's a time that we can celebrate, everyone in New Zealand can celebrate Te Reo Māori in some shape or form, whether it's small or big, whether you're fluent or not fluent, using one or two words every day, it makes a big difference.
Māori language speakers are celebrating the anniversary of the 1972 petition delivered to Parliament calling for Te Reo Māori to be taught in schools.
Everything's blown up because of this petition, and it's time to celebrate that massive feat from 1972 as we move forward.
The event also plays a part in promoting and contributing to the language.
It's a language that is unique to New Zealand, and it's something that we can all collectively be proud of and contribute to its well-being.
The Māori Language Commission wants 1 million speakers of Te Reo by 2040, but there are challenges.
There's still sentiments around at times of learning the language comes at the cost of something, but it's actually a value add, in my view.
The week also lays a foundation for the interest in tikanga within the community.
It's not just about revitalisation of Te Reo Māori, it's also revitalisation of the interest of our young people and people more generally in Māori affairs and also in tikanga.
Well, it's the native language of New Zealand, I guess, so I think it's important and everyone should learn a little bit.
Yeah, I love the way that kids at primary school are learning that. It's great because they come home and teach the parents. I think that's great.
You know, there is an element of respectfully trying to pronounce it and use it rather than just not at all.
It's clear that 1 million speakers of Te Reo Māori by 2040 is a challenging goal. However, the language is getting stronger every day. So this coming week, celebrate and get involved with Te Reo Māori. For Metro News, Nick James, Mā te wā.
Orana Wildlife Park is calling for your help to save gorillas' habitats from coltan mining in Africa. Our reporter James Fleury is with us now to explain how you can do your bit for the endangered species. James.
The Congo is the main place gorillas live. Unfortunately for them, it's also where coltan is mined. You've probably never heard of it, but it's found in every cell phone. So, if you're wanting to get involved in saving their habitats, you can save their environment. Orana Wildlife Park is proud of its 3 gorillas, brothers who were born in a Sydney zoo, but have lived here for 5 years. They're a curious animal and obviously don't know that a sought-after component for cell phones is causing big problems for their relatives.
In clearing the forest, they're clearing very, very remote areas that are home to these great apes. These people are bringing diseases into that habitat and sharing 98% of our DNA. These are passing on to the great apes as well. They're just as vulnerable as we are.
Coltan is found in your phone, laptop and almost any electronic device you own. The park's been working with the Telecommunications Forum to recycle and refurbish them. You simply drop off your old phone at the Re-Mobile stand at the Great Ape Centre or any 2 Degrees Vodafone or Spark store.
The initiative not only benefits our friends Fuzu, Mahali and Fataki and their relatives in the Congo, but also our local waterways in New Zealand.
A lot of the proceeds from selling those refurbished phones come back to New Zealanders through the Sustainable Coastlines Initiative, which SwapKit, the recyclers, support in New Zealand.
A university professor backs the scheme, but only if the material is recycled in New Zealand.
Any type of recycling will reduce e-waste as long as it's done in a controlled professional manner. Unfortunately, much of the e-waste that's sent for recycling is exported offshore to countries with lax environmental legislation.
Toby Johnson says the phones are recycled sustainably.
This program and the company that are operating it have been certified, inspected and endorsed by the Ministry for the Environment. It's being done in accordance with all the international conventions. Unsorted e-waste is not shipped.
So next time you're changing phones, give a thought to fuzu, mahali and fataki. The parks team aren't stopping with gorillas. They're working closely with zoos in Victoria to try and reduce the impact that palm oil plantations have on habitats in Asia. Once again, it's about saving native rainforests, this time for the orangutans.
Thanks, James. After 5 weeks in Alert Level 2, moving down to Level 1 next week will be good news for South Islanders, but bars and pubs are still struggling with the impact COVID-19 is having on their businesses. Reporter Charlotte Grimwood talks to venue owners to find out how they're coping.
Callum Batchelor loves running his bar, but this year's been a struggle. Trade has halved.
It's always been just meeting the people, and it's still happening now, just not quite as often.
COVID restrictions mean a limit of 100 customers seated and keeping a metre apart. Callum's kept Metropolitan going by cutting staff hours rather than laying anyone off.
It's hard to hear when other people that you know are trying to provide as well, but it's just hard a struggle for them, and they're having to actually cut their staff out and make redundancies, or in some cases, some places have even closed.
The empty seats show the struggles the hospitality industry has been facing and possibly more job losses. For people I've spoken with, they've had to face it all, from closing their doors to turning away loyal customers due to social gathering restrictions. And for many bars, they've had to lay off staff in order to keep their doors open. Max Bremner owns a number of Christchurch bars. He's anxious about the future. Bremner says the worst is yet to come.
I think we're kind of sitting on the beach drinking margaritas, and there's this big tsunami, fiscal tsunami. You can't see it. Everyone's going, ooh, it's great. Can't last.
Another challenge for bar owners is the behaviour of customers.
So it's always been very difficult to monitor that, because people want to dance, they want to have a few drinks, they want to get off the chair.
It's a concern echoed by Callum Batchelor.
On an unusual night, people milling around and actually catching up with other friends of other groups happens regularly. It is a harder one to also get our guests to understand that we are just wanting to provide the best possible for what the situation is.
Things are running as well as they can for both bars, but they know they'll be battling until the virus is gone. Charlotte Grimwood, Metro News.
Coming up, Sir Bob Parker joins us in the studio 10 years after the quakes. And we look at how our tamariki are taking on the role of kaitiakitanga.
My name is Nan Surasampan. I work in the camera department in film and television. Currently I'm in Brussels shooting a little piece, but I'm based in London and I travel all over the world filming bits and pieces here and there. Graduated 4 years ago from the New Zealand Broadcasting School. From then I've just been all over the place, working on documentaries, commercials, TV series, reality shows, all sorts of stuff. After doing my internship with a local company in Christchurch, I moved over to New York. From New York I went over to Vancouver. From Vancouver I moved over to London. Working in Europe is amazing. The history that surrounds you, it's older than the country that I grew up in, and to me that's very inspiring. The course was very practical, which was exactly what I needed. To do what I do, you need to really have your hands on the equipment to kind of feel where things need to be and how to frame and everything. The past 4 years after graduating from broadcasting school have been the best years of my life. Not many people can say, I do what I love as a living. I can safely say that. Every day I go to work, there's something new that I learn. It's very exciting for me.
Kia ora anō. With the help of Christchurch City Park Rangers, Papanui outdoor education classes are helping to replant a historic bush site. Metro News reporter Nikki Carroll has more.
Planting at the Papanui bush site, Year 11 students get hands-on experience of the impact they can have on the environment. Their teacher says the opportunity to be part of these kind of events is invaluable.
We're seeing these places being remodelled and renaturalised, if you like. So these kids are going to be part of that future, and I think they need to know the issues.
One of the local park rangers is the coordinator for school planting events.
And get them to come along, plant trees and look after them for that number of years it takes for them to survive on their own. So they have kind of like an ownership, and they get to come back year after year for about 3 years or so, looking after their little patch that they've planted.
Papanui Bush is a catchment reserve for rainwater, which runs off from the road and parking areas. Wetland plants like toitoi and harakeke are ideal for these conditions.
So what we've done is planted a whole lot of plants that essentially filter out those nasty chemicals and things before it goes into the streams and then goes out to sea.
The students definitely enjoy time out of the classroom and like being involved in these types of activities.
My favourite thing about Adelaide is hanging out with my mates and doing good for the community.
As long as I know it's benefiting our environment and we're doing good for our country.
It's early days for the reserve, but with a long-term partnership between the school, council and local Rotary Club, this part of Papanui has a good, green future. Nikki Carroll for Metronews.
Our Institute of Canterbury and the Red Cross are teaming up to reduce waste and give new life to pre-loved items. Carmina Blewett is with us now. Tell us more about shopping sustainably. Carmina.
Government figures show that 4% of rubbish going into landfills is clothing and textile waste. While it doesn't sound like much, it's 100 million kilos a year. Buying second-hand, however, has a big impact against that. Volunteers and shoppers have gathered in Christchurch's Turanga Library to celebrate the joys of thrifting. That's another way of saying second-hand shopping. Retooled is the sustainable brainchild of the Red Cross and students from Ada's design and fashion departments.
So we decided to have the worlds collide, op shopping and fashion. So hence Retooled, a celebration of the second-hand life.
A shoe tattoo prints new life into old shoes. That and swapping wardrobe contents are just a part of Retooled's philosophy, encouraging second-hand shopping for a low-waste economy.
In order to create any kind of future where the rest of us don't fall into some sort of Hunger Games type scenario, we need to contribute a little bit more by shopping more sustainably.
Over the past 30 years, Kiwi households have spent over $6 billion in clothing and footwear. But by saying no to fast fashion and buying second-hand, you can help save the planet and your pocket. It's events like Retooled which go to show dressing up doesn't have to cost you the earth.
There's pristine stuff here if you have a look around, stuff with their tags on it, stuff from Witchery and Country Road and Valentine's that don't look like they've ever been touched.
Taking it easy on your wallet has never looked this good.
And that was really the hope, is maybe to just change one or two minds about secondhand clothing.
And in some cases, it's hard to stop the shop. People behind Retooled say buying second-hand is budget-friendly and helps minimise waste. They say there are more than 20 second-hand stores in Christchurch, all perfect for the eco-friendly shopper.
Thanks, Carmina. This month marks 10 years since a 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit the Canterbury region in the early hours of Saturday morning. Sir Bob Parker, who was the Mayor at the time, is here with reporter Nikki Carroll to reflect on the decade that's passed. Nikki.
Hi Bob, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Nikki.
Awesome, wonderful to have you here today. Just a few questions to ask you about the last 10 years. So my first one is, what's an outstanding memory you have of the September quake?
Just the way that the people of the city and the wider New Zealand and even from overseas all worked together to get a great outcome as best we could in an incredibly difficult time. And I think that's what I'll always remember, what the people did for each other.
Right. So what was one thing that you feel should have been done differently after that first quake?
Well, after the first quake, I reckon we didn't get our communication done very well. So that was back in 2010 with the 4th of September. And I think we learned a lot of lessons from that. And I can remember after the 22nd of February that we got out into the community, we held meetings in all of the parks, we would put placards up on street posts, and we really realised how important it was for people to hear exactly and truthfully what was happening and where we were up to. So that's what we learned a lot of that in the first time.
Right, so it was a learning curve.
It was. Yeah.
So where were you exactly when the February quake hit, and at what stage did you realise just how bad the impact had been?
Realised it was pretty bad after the first 25 seconds, which is about how long it lasted. And I was on a little deck outside of the mayor's office having a sandwich and a cup of tea. Never did get the cup of tea. I'm not sure what happened to the sandwich. And got thrown around all over the place. I was out there with Sarah Owen, who was my PA. Or EA really, and as soon as the shaking stopped, I had this perfect view out across the city. I could see the dust rising up, hear the sirens going, and I could hear screams and shouts from within the council building. Went back in there and just saw the devastation in the building, just the ceiling panels that were down. People were cut from glass and bleeding, and some people were very, very upset. So it was a matter of gathering our thoughts and then sort of getting on with what we knew we were going to have to do, which was going to be big. Sirens, everything happening.
So one of the questions I do have to ask you is, how did you feel about the protests that went on in the latter months after February around the government's response, local government's response to the earthquakes?
Well, I think I don't think they were really demonstrating against our response to the earthquake. And people had a lot of tension, and there was a lot of, post-traumatic stress in us all, actually. It was a difficult time. But I think people were frustrated with the time that some things were taking. The central city had been shut down for probably about a year. We were getting the first indications that insurance wasn't working. So I didn't take it personally. I just looked at the situation we were in and knew that we had to just keep pushing on and getting through it, and kept our heads down and worked. It'd be nicer if everybody had been happy all the time, but that's not life. And disasters of that nature always have a period where the heroic, happy phase, in a sense, that immediate phase where we're all working together, becomes a lot more traumatic and a lot more broken down as individuals seek to find answers to their personal questions. And sometimes they don't get them, it's slow.
Yeah. And what do you think about the time that the rebuild is taking at the moment?
I think it's pretty amazing, really. I mean, I've always said really openly that I'm disappointed that government and council did not stick to the time frames that we'd arranged for those big civic investments around the sports stadiums and those sorts of things, because they were projects designed to bring investment in. And where they haven't happened, you'll see there's often a desert of no investment, and the city would have felt whole a lot quicker. But that's politics. You don't always get what you want.
Exactly. Thank you very much for your time, Sir Bob.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Nikki. E whai ake nei. The Get To Go adventure race kicks off, and we visit a farm doing their bit for unwanted chickens.
My name is Aaron Soma, from New Zealand originally. Now I'm working at the BBC in London, at BBC World, as a producer. So I went to broadcasting school, studied there, and then got my internship at TVNZ. Decided London was calling, so came here, started working at BBC World, and I've been here for about 3 or 4 months now. Absolutely just fell in love with this place. I mean, it's incredible. It's like a dream for any journalist. And to know that what you're producing is going out to tens of millions of people every hour, people watching it around the globe. It's incredible. There's that saying, the city that never sleeps, and this is one of those, of course. It's a huge, huge place. Great different little pockets of the city. It's amazing, it's always buzzing. At the moment I'm working night shifts, so that's overnight. So I start at about 10 p.m. and finish at 7 a.m. You know, when I arrive, America is just going to sleep, but Asia is opening up, and then Europe starts to open up. So it feels like a bit of a dream actually to be working here. The course is great because it's very much in line with what the industry is doing, and that's really important because it gives you this kind of almost this worldly knowledge of what's actually happening. It can lead you to this big wide world. You can do whatever you want to do, put your mind to it, and get out there and see what's around.
Welcome back. Chasing chickens is a full-time job for two women who live north of Otatahi. As I discover, dumping chooks is such a problem, there is now a special rescue centre. Look at all those chickens, or as they're known in Māori, hei hei. Unfortunately, the hei hei are here because they've been rescued.
So people buy eggs and they just think they're going to have females for some particular reason. And of course then, oh my God, there's roosters, what do we do with them? People go take them to Ruru Road, Bromley, and just dump them off there. You name it, cemeteries, churches, you know, people are even that low.
Dumping unwanted chickens has been going on for decades, so Amanda started a non-profit organisation to rescue the defenceless birds.
There was dog attacks that happened during lockdown from someone who moved out, left their chickens behind, and someone else's dog had got in and attacked them.
Chicken Rescue Canterbury has been running for 4 years and relies on donations and a portion of egg sales to pay for feed for the birds. Running the operation costs around $1,000 a month. Volunteer Liv says it's got busier over time.
When I first started, there's an odd rescue, maybe once every week or every couple of weeks, and then it was quiet for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, at the moment, I think we're coming out 14 days straight, we've been out to look at birds.
Many chickens they rescue have to be put down because they have broken beaks, feet and wings. Others can contract yeast infections, but Liv says despite all the trauma, they now live protected lives.
Until they find a home, they're safe here, they're fed, they're looked after.
Penalties for dumping and abusing animals can result in fines up to $10,000 and jail time for repeat offenders. Enforcement responsibility belongs to the council, police and SPCA.
You know, we tell the SPCA where we're picking them up from, and whether they want to do something about it or not, it's obviously up to them. People need to learn that this is not acceptable for people to treat chickens in a way that's inhumane.
Amanda says she and her team will carry on saving chickens as long as there's a need. Tia McDougall, Metro News.
The Canterbury Cricket Trust is asking for donations to open a new training facility at Hagley Oval. I went down there to check out their plans. In a year of uncertainty, COVID-19 hasn't got in the way of the Get to Go adventure race. Harry Galbraith went to check out the action.
It's a challenge run by the Hillary Outdoors organisation.
So we've been around a while, and we provide outdoor education experiences for young people, mainly from secondary school, but also intermediates as well, and have been doing that for quite a long time.
It's all about participation for both the sporty ones and the not so sporty ones.
We try and involve as many young people as we could, just to get them into the outdoors, having fun, working together with their teams to just undertake different challenges that they maybe don't get to do ordinarily at school.
The event is all about taking part and having a go. It's not about who finishes first, it's about encouraging the kids to participate and having a smile on their face.
COVID-19 meant organisers had to get smart with their planning.
Instead of having things like a mass briefing with all, 200 students there together, we simply divide them up across the challenges on the day, so they're smaller groups and well under the guideline of 100.
1, go!
The end goal for some of the series teams like Hillview is the final at Great Barrier Island.
Great Barrier Island, really.
We're gonna make it all the way.
They didn't have enough people.
Make it to Great Barrier.
Yeah.
On a hot sunny day, the water sports are a big hit.
It's so relaxing after doing heaps of hard work and biking.
Your legs are actually raised.
Organisers happy with the day and the turnout. Students happy too. Harry Galbraith, Metro News.
And now to the weather. Looking ahead, the overnight low will be Te Kotakiri, and on Ratu we can expect a high day with light rain at lunchtime and a high of Tacoma Ono Takiri.
That's all for Metro News tonight.
For those stories and more, head to our website metronews.co.nz, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Join us again tomorrow night at 7. Call Mitch Redmond aho.
Ko tia McDougall aho.
Ka kite anō.